Hello everyone, CM here to make another video about the Guardians of the United States, and today we have another mutant rivalry video. That's right, another mutant rivalry, this time between the Guardian of Maine, or aka Masson R. Miles, or aka Agent Vox, versus the Guardian of Pennsylvania, or aka Wallace E. McCarthy, or aka the Ventriloquist. Alright, as this is going to be an epic mutant rivalry between freedom versus control. Alright, so I can't wait to get to it, but before we do, I have to warn you first. Do not watch this video if you're under the age of 18, as this video may talk about some pretty sensitive topics that may not be suitable for kids. So let me repeat that again. Do not watch this video if you're under the age of 18, as this video may talk about some pretty sensitive topics that may not be suitable for kids. So I'm just telling you right now, you have been warned. So let's get to this. The Guardian of Maine versus the Guardian of Pennsylvania. Freedom versus control. And we're going to be transferring in 3, 2, 1. Hello, alright, here we go, guys. Ready? Here we are. The Guardian of Maine, or aka Masson R. Miles, or aka Agent Vox, versus the Guardian of Pennsylvania, or aka Wallace E. McCarthy, or aka the Ventriloquist, as this is truly an epic rivalry between freedom versus control. Alright, so let's get to it, as we have both these two, as we have the Guardian of Maine right here and the Guardian of Pennsylvania. However, before we get to that, I have to tell you guys first, both these two characters represent three different things. They don't just represent freedom and control. As in right here, we have the Guardian of Maine, or Masson R. Miles, who represents three things: freedom, rebellion, and wildness. Meanwhile, you have the Guardian of Pennsylvania, who represents control, obedience, and tameness. So as we're going to get into these arguments, let me guys know in the comment section below, which one of these two characters do you think make the better arguments, and what path would you choose? Let me guys know in the comment section below as we're getting to them. So let's get to this. As in right here, the Guardian of Maine, as she believes in freedom. As she says right here, we should strive towards a path of freedom and live life freely in order to pursue the desires that we all want in life. As in, we should do what we can to live life freely and do what we can to pursue our hopes and dreams. You know, pursue the things that interest us and not be afraid to live freely and pursue those dreams. Meanwhile, you have the Guardian of Pennsylvania, who represents control, as he believes in the power of control. As he says right here, we should strive towards a path of control and have more control over people's lives in order to prevent people from believing in radical and dangerous ideas. As he says, in a free society, if we give people the ability to choose, they may choose to live dangerous or radical, or they may choose to believe in radical and dangerous ideas that could destroy society. As he thinks we should have more control over people's lives and control what people believe in. All right, in order to prevent our society from crumbling. All right, that's what he believes in. Meanwhile, you have the Guardian of Maine, who represents rebellion. As she says right here, we should strive towards a path of rebellion and be more rebellious and live life to the fullest and rebel against corrupt authorities and rebel against corrupt authorities and preserve our natural human rights. As in, we should not be obedient towards corrupt authority. We should not be obedient towards authority. We should rebel against authority and fight back against authority and prevent those in power from having control over us, control over our lives, and preserve our natural rights. Alright? Meanwhile, you have the Guardian of Pennsylvania, who represents obedience, as he believes in obedience. As he says right here, we should strive towards a path of obedience and be more obedient towards someone in an authority position in order to keep us safe and away from harm, and obey the authorities in order to prevent lawlessness and chaos from spreading. Saying that if we don't want lawlessness and chaos from spreading, instead of rebelling against authorities, we should instead of being rebellious towards authorities, we should obey authorities, listen to authorities. You know, we shouldn't be rebellion, because if we rebel, that may cause lawlessness and chaos from spreading. Alright? Meanwhile, you have the Guardian of Maine, who represents wildness, as she believes we should strive towards a path of wildness and be more wild and live our lives however we want, without anyone in positions of power trying to tell us what to say or do. As in, we should act however we want in society, without anyone in positions of power, wagging their finger wagging their finger at us, saying you're not allowed to say that, you're not allowed to do that, you're not allowed to do you're not allowed to do things that we don't like. Meanwhile, you have the Guardian of Pennsylvania, who represents tameness, as he believes, and right as he believes, we should strive towards a path of tameness and be more tame and live a life of control and self-discipline, and listen to those in higher positions of power for their knowledge and experience. All for our safety. As in, instead of ignoring authorities, we should listen to authorities. Listen to them. Be more tame in public. Not just be wild. We should be more tame and have some discipline. Okay, that's what he believes in, and that's what these two characters believe in. One believes in freedom, rebellion, and wildness, and the other one represents control, obedience, and tameness. So let me guys know in the comment section below what side makes the better argument. And I'm going to be transferring again in 3, 2, 1. Here we go. As you can see right here. Now next, I'm going to begin to a little bit deeper of what this rivalry represents. The deeper lore about why these two are rivals, Even though, as in, both of them are rivals. Now, even though both these two are rivals and they both have philosophies that basically contradict one another, they both have something similar in common, as both of them came from very, very, very dysfunctional families, in which both of them were forced to see someone that they really, loved and care about tragically die and tragically die in a very horrific way. All right? Now, both of them, even though both of them do not like each other, they both have something similar in common like that. Alright, now, why are they rivals? What does this rivalry represent? Well, you have the Guardian of Maine, or a.k.a. Massanar Miles, who represents that hero in folklore. That hero that we all look up to, the one that uses their voice to encourage people to rise up and rebel against authority and authoritarianism and tyranny, to fight back against the corrupt figures, and not be obedient towards corrupt figures, to fight back, as she's someone who's always fighting for the little guy and fighting for everyone. She uses her voice to encourage people to rise up, as she's literally nicknamed Agent Vox. The word Vox is a Latin word that means voice of the people, as she's someone who's the voice of a people. That is what she represents. Meanwhile, you have the Guardian of Pennsylvania, or a.k.a. Wallace E. McCarthy, or a.k.a. the Ventriloquist, who represents that classical villain that you see in folklore. The dark and shadowy man who's always controlling things from the shadows. A puppeteer is always pulling the strings of everything, of every evil plan. He's the Ventriloquist. He's a villain. He's like that typical depiction of a supervillain. Someone who's always behind the scenes, controlling things, manipulating things from the shadows. As that's what he is. He is the ventriloquist. He's someone who's all about control, obedience, and tameness. Someone who's always who wants people to be tame and be obedient to him. All right, so that's what this whole rivalry is all about. That's what both of them symbolize: a battle of freedom versus control. You have that hero who's all about looking out for the little guy and always using her voice to encourage people to rise up against tyranny. Meanwhile, you have Wallace E. McCarthy, who represents that villain who's all about trying to gain control over people's lives and trying to spread tyranny throughout the land. So let me guys know in the comment section below, which side do you think makes the better argument? Okay? Let me guys know in the comment section below what do you guys think about this rivalry and what it symbolizes. And I'm going to be transferring again in 3, 2, 1. Here we go. As you can see right here, don't forget to like and share, comment, subscribe to the video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to follow my Twitter account at OddCinema899, as in right here. Sorry if the phone's blurry. Don't forget to follow me my Twitter account at OddCinema899. Thank you guys so much for watching. Also, let me guys know in the comment section below, which one of these two characters would you follow? Would you follow the Guardian of Maine, or a.k.a. Agent Vox? Would you listen to her voice and rise up against tyranny? Or would you follow the Guardian of Pennsylvania, or a.k.a. the Ventriloquist? Or a.k.a. the Ventriloquist? And are you going to be obedient towards authority? Alright? Let me guys know in the comment section below what side you will pick. Thank you guys so much for watching. Have a wonderful and blessed day, And as I've been saying, may God bless.